Hello, my name is Spanj, and today we're going to be talking about Starbase. And first of all, we're going to be looking at the Starbase announcement trailer that was out back in May, but this is the first time I'm going to be talking about it, so I think it's good to start from the beginning. Alright, here we go. We got... Alright, that's a bloody big space station. I'm going to put my headphones on a sec. Okay. And we got things moving around here. The ship's moving around. I'm noticing, I mean, I've got this on full screen here, and I mean, the quality of it's still buffering and stuff from YouTube, but I'm noticing that it's a bit janky. As the further it comes out, we're seeing frames, and that might be YouTube, but that might be... All in all, though, that's pretty smooth, considering. Lots of activity. Yeah, we got... The little robot characters can do little emote dances and stuff. I mean, that's fun. It's a little quality of life thing, isn't it? Do you notice there as well, the robots are stood, the ship is moving, the robots are stood, freestanding on moving things. I'm pointing these things out. Some of you guys that are not familiar with Empyrion, which is what I cover mainly on my channel, you might not realize why that's a big deal to me. It's a big deal to me because in Empyrion you can't do that. Okay, so we're sort of getting the impression that there's a lot going on, there's trade, and, you know, it's a little bit of a sort of living, breathing space station, okay? That's interesting, there's two parts here. You've got the placeable components that we just saw there. Let's go back a second. So you've got this guy is plugging something in, and then this guy is putting bolts into it and stuff like that. There's more videos out and stuff that explain the building things, and we'll cover that in a bit. And then you got this guy that's spray painting, basically. So this is the voxel technology, spray painting something back together, presumably. Coding, Lua coding, I presume, something basic coding. I mean, that's always good when you want to showcase a video game. Look at all the action-packed stuff, and then you've got some guy typing code halfway through it. I mean, to some, I know that's going to be pretty exciting. Ooh, we could do our own code and stuff. To me, I'm like... But, you know. So we saw a bit there of like cables and stuff. Let me rewind a second. So all these like yellow lines and blue lines are connectors and cables and things like that that you need to run around the kind of inside of your ship. And I'm guessing that these like black squares that we see everywhere are some kind of like junction points, connecting points. We can kind of see maybe some of the cables clipping into those in places around here. But from this, I'm like, well, okay, so every component you place on a boat, you have to then connect to another component, to another component, to another component. So, you know, wiring an entire ship. I love that in a sci-fi space game we're still using pickaxes. Why not? Ain't broke, don't fix it, right? I'm kind of glad they put the mining laser stuff in there, because I figured if you have to go and jump onto asteroids and hit them with a pickaxe all the time, then that's not great. So we get some kind of faction information here. Obviously we've got the kingdom, this guy looks like he's got something coming out the top of his head. He's obviously leading a vast legion of evil robots. That's a lot. That's a lot of players in one place, actually. There's a lot of little ships, and they're all moving in the same space. And then you've got these guys, the Empire, minding their own business down on the space station. And what I'm kind of looking for when I see this bit, what I'm kind of looking for is telltale signs of lag, telltale signs of frame rate drops, net lag, stuff like that. But I mean, it's a trailer. They're obviously going to make it look as good as possible. They're trying to market their game here, so it's going to be tricky to spot. Empire responds. Battle ensues. Guy sat on top of boat. Guy gets off of boat. I like this. Blows the hinges out. Jumps in. And who's going to pretend they're going to surrender and not just get shot straight out? This is a multiplayer PvP. Nobody's going to be able to surrender. Nobody's going to take anyone prisoner. Well, it would be interesting to see if you could take someone prisoner. That would be fun. This guy's running on a wall. So I don't know whether he's got magnetic boots or there's variable gravity and he's just kind of cheesing it or whatever, but yeah, that's interesting. That is the biggest boat that we see in the game at the moment. All the videos that I've seen of this is the biggest ship that we see, which isn't even that big, which has me slightly worried. I like this. I'm just going to borrow this deck plate and use it as a shield. Nice. The damage is good. It's impressive. You gotta admit, the damage is impressive. Bits flying off everywhere. And then they just sort of spray paint bits back together again, and it's all fine. Nothing happened. Well, it's sort of putting me off a bit about this particular screen here as well. All these these black, obviously these are connector points or whatever, but it looks like it's just still been shot to hell, and all these little black holes are bullet holes or something. I don't know, but obviously it's still in development, so I'm assuming a lot of the textures and things like that will be smoothed out and made pretty. Crouching. Elion, take note. There we go. So it really looks like Starbase is going to be taking on the sandbox sort of space buildy kind of genre that we know that Space Engineers is probably the king of at the moment, but other games like Imperium Galactic Survival, Evorion, StarMade, etc. kind of in the mix there too. There's a lot of really cool looking stuff in those trailers, but they're trailers. They're made to market the game. They're going to be made to look as good as possible and hide any of the little shortcomings that may be. So it's kind of up to us to try and pick them apart and poke holes in them and say, hey, what about this bit? Hey, what about this bit? So yeah, I'm a little bit skeptical at this point. Obviously, we can still see that the game is very much in development. A lot of the sort of graphics and textures are very plasticky and pixelated and stuff like that. But you know, if it's still in alpha development and stuff like that, textures, graphics are a beta level kind of thing to be putting into the game. So hopefully we can see that improve further the game goes along. And some of the physics that we saw in the trailer and in the other videos and stuff that you guys can go and check out, some of the physics do look a bit janky at times. There's definitely some frame rates going on in those trailers if you look close enough. But with all that said, there's definitely a lot of stuff in there to be excited about. So Starbase is a hybrid voxel and vertex, or it uses a hybrid of voxel and vertex technology. I'm not really going to pretend I know what that means, but as we saw, we get a mix of sort of placeable items and objects, and then this kind of spray painting metal kind of effect that we saw in the tools there. of them repairing stuff. So I think that latter bit is definitely the voxel technology, and that's also, you know, part of how I think the damage looks so good when you shoot a panel or something like that. You get actual bullet holes and stuff. Again, I think that's an element of the voxel technology coming in there. One thing that looks pretty cool on the face, on the surface, the building looks relatively cool on the surface of it. You're placing components and then you're linking them together. You can even create custom weapons by piecing bits of the weapon together and adding more barrels or more ammo things and stuff like that, and using sort of basic coding stuff that we saw to create useful switches and logic within a ship. But I fear the depth and complexity may put the more casual builder off. Ambitious designs may be more of a chore to make and put together, you know, fully and properly, and it might actually resign some to just simply buying ships rather than making them. There's also not a lot of information yet on how the shapes of a ship can be made, and especially around ship hull. So we saw obviously in the trailer that they were placing hull parts, but there's not any information on what shapes are available, whether they're pre-made shapes like they are in, say, Space Engineers and Empyrean, or whether they're more sort of free voxel shapes like we see with Dual Universe, that's also still in development at the moment. If it's more like Dual Universe, then we could really, there is no limit on the shapes of ships that we see, but I suspect it's going to be pre-shaped shapes, blocks, hull parts, whatever you want to call them. When we look at the ships and stuff that we saw in the trailer, there's a lot of very sort of blocky ships, and then there's a couple of more sleek type fighter craft, but ultimately they're very simple shapes, both of them. I guess it depends on what kind of itch you're trying to scratch. For many, maybe just a PvP space fighting is enough, and the design and build aspect is something someone else can do, basically, you know? In that case, Starbase really does look like it could be a contender. The footage of these battles so far looks smooth, they look exciting, the ships look tricky to control but simple enough to be accessible, and the damage. That's their flagship feature, really, isn't it? It's the damage. I mean, they did a whole trailer on it. You just look at us blowing stuff up. How cool is that? And I gotta admit that it must be pretty satisfying, I think, to get a good shot off on an enemy ship and then see their thruster housing just explode into many little pieces all over the place. Yeah, that does look like a pretty cool feature. Look at that damage. There's a lot of damage. Bits flying everywhere. Something that worries me about all of this, though, the biggest ship we see in the reveal trailer, and we see it just powering up and moving off. All the ships that we see in battle are tiny craft. That one big ship that we see is basically just standing still, getting shot to hell. And then they do a bit where the turrets are returning fire, but it's not moving. In that case, it is just sitting still and taking a huge amount of damage. So that might be choice by the players, or the developers in this case, because they're the ones recording the video, that smaller ships, being more agile and harder to hit and stuff, are the better weapons of choice. Large ships that have lots of turrets and stuff still need to be controlled by a player, and so they're a little less effective. The payoff is they're bigger guns, they do more damage, I guess. I don't know. So it may be that we don't see these big ships because they're impractical within the game, or what I suspect at the moment is we don't see these big ships, especially moving and in combat at the same time, because they are a performance hindrance. And in a trailer, you obviously need things to look the best. And if you've got a big ship with lots of guns moving and shooting at the same time, while you've got lots of little crafts running around and shooting and moving at the same time, I don't think they could get the frame rate that they desired for a trailer. And I suspect that the bigger ships, like games in like in Empyrean and the Space Engineers, the bigger the ship, the slower it moves in terms of frame rates and stuff. So that has me slightly concerned. I would like to see a little bit more in regards to the bigger boats, the more capital ships, because everything at the moment is looking like it's very focused around one-man fighters and stuff like that. Obviously, some of you point out, well, the space stations that they have are massive. Yes, they are. They're huge and they look good, and the frames, even during battle with those things in, looked smooth. But those space stations are not moving, and from what I could tell, they're not shooting either. So, you know, big static object, probably not going to be much of a performance hindrance. I think the thing comes when you start moving and shooting at the same time. It's probably where the performance hit really kicks in. They do even point out in the trailer that there are no limits.
giant ship with mounted weapons fit for warfare, or anything else you can think of, as in space, not even the sky is the limit.
But I suspect they're using the small ships to keep the frame rates high for the trailer, and when there might not be a physical limit to how big you could build a ship in Starbase, I suspect there is definitely a performance limit to ship size. I'd say Starbase is looking more to the combat PvP element of the space sandbox genre than the building side, and I think that's a good move considering the creative freedoms of other games that were already kind of out and available of this type. They'd be hard pressed to kind of introduce something to compete with those, especially with Dual Universe on the horizon, and looking at Dual Universe's creative elements, they're probably going to blow everything out of the water. So I think Starbase focusing on combat PvP element is probably a good move in that light. However, I hope they can keep things balanced and fun, because as we know, in sandbox PvP world, it very, very quickly becomes toxic. We can see that in Rust and other games. Even Empyrean and Space Engineers in PvP worlds can become very toxic. So it will be interesting to see how they deal with that, because, like I said, definitely looks like they're going down the PvP combat route, and it's a sandbox game. So I say good luck to them. Those of you that know are more familiar with my content, you know that obviously I come from primarily a Empyrean background. That's my main content. So some of you might be thinking that Starbase might kill Empyrean, but I don't think it will. I think they're two very different games. Empyrean is more survival focused, with some great creative tools to build whatever you like. It's an unoptimized, bug-ridden mess, but we love it all the same because it's uncomplicated and reasonably flexible. I don't know if Starbase will cause a problem with the Space Engineers crowd either. I only played Space Engineers for a couple of hours, but it's more sim-like physics and building and stuff. I think will be more for the building engineering types that, you know, like, hey, can we build this machine to do this? Starbase, I think, will itch the I want to shoot people in the face with a TIE fighter kind of itch, for most anyway, but time will tell. Starbase is due out early access later this year. You can check out the links below for their Discord, their wiki, their official YouTube channel. Let me know what you think too. I'd be really interested to hear what you guys think about Starbase, whether you think I'm completely wrong in my opinions, whether you agree. Either way, I'm interested to hear, so let me know in the comments down below. There's a whole bunch of Starbase videos out on their official channel going through more of the features and stuff of the game, a lot of what I've already covered, but also a lot of stuff I haven't. It's definitely, if this sort of thing does interest you, it's definitely worth checking those out and joining the official Discord to find out even more information and keep in touch with their announcements and things like that. Finally, if you're new here, consider hitting that subscribe button to get more content from me. And if you like this video, do consider also punching that like button. It is greatly appreciated. But that is all from me today. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.